Hey, nerds. We understand you. Drop those controllers. Lose the wizard hat. And ready your Cheetos. It's time for some hard-hitting talk about the movies, books, and games you love. So get ready, oh searcher of useless knowledge. It's time to step into the Geek Cave. Now, broadcasting from a top secret and totally awesome hidden base, I'm Ken Harris, and here's Darren Wright, Justin White, and Chad Savage.
Tickets, please. Please don't try to record the screen, mainly because this is audio. Geek Cave Podcast Movies. I'm Darren.
And I'm Chad, reminding you that the first person to hear a parrot speak was probably not okay for a while.
That bird's talking, man. That bird's talking to me.
We are a Geek Cave podcast. This is the movie segment. We're brought to you by Gamefly, with membership options for every budget, plus gifts for gamers of all ages. Gamefly has thousands of titles you can keep as long as you want. When you're done, just send it back with the postage-paid envelope for a new one. Or keep it forever, pay a lot less than in-store prices. Sign up for a free 30-day trial right now using the link at geekcavepodcast.com. Igor! Frederick. All right. So, with Justin on vacation,
Yep.
I haven't been watching just the pilots of TV shows. How about you?
Ladies and gentlemen, the Gorillas.
Pilot party! Pilot party! Pilot party!
Remember them? They were real big.
They were a thing.
They were a thing. Welcome to Pilot Party, where the idea is simple. Watch the first episode of a show, try to predict where that's going to go, maybe hilarity ensues, ? Profit. So this month I watched on Tubi, where you can find all 3 seasons of it, Sue Thomas F.B.Eye, spelled E-Y-E.
All right.
F.B.Eye. So I knew going in, because my wife called it out, because she's like, oh, I've seen the show, that this was about a character with a disability, right? So the show starts with a woman leaving home, her parents doting over her as she's, like, packing her car up. And my first thought to my wife was, wait, they're going to let her drive? Because when I saw the title was F.B.Eye, E-Y-E, I'm like, is this a blind woman? She's getting in that car. Why is no one stopping her? Turns out, no, that's not the case. But she's leaving for her new whatever. They don't say. That's the thing that's going to keep coming back. Only that it's a 6-hour drive and that she needs to pick up Levi beforehand. And the mom's like, I really wish I could meet him. Like, is Levi a guy? Of course not. Don't be stupid. So when she does meet up with Levi, she is told by the receptionist Levi has a bit of a problem with discipline. He's been abused. He's a flight risk. Again, who the hell is Levi? Sue, this is the woman we've been following, says it'll be fine, and then someone grabs her on the ass. It's Levi. He's a dog. He's a big old golden retriever. See, Levi's a service dog assigned to Sue, who is deaf, and then we just randomly get a flashback. Because this happens a lot, by the way, where she will just randomly stop in the middle of whatever's going on and flashback to, like, just remind you that being deaf is hard. So we did a flashback of kids making fun of Sue, who at this point had her hearing. She looks like she's like 4. And a bird poops on her head. And the kids made fun of her, including one kid in, like, what is quite possibly the best low-budget Darth helmet costume I have ever seen. It was fantastic. And the bird pooping is relevant because she explains to the dog she's always been a little different. Kid, I don't know if you know this, but, like, that just happens sometimes. That doesn't... Anyway, the flashback reveals that she went deaf almost immediately after the bird poop incident, which prompted me to say it was the poop. And then immediately one of her little brothers also says it was the poop, and that's confirmation as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, it's just she's watching cartoons, and then all of a sudden the sound is just gone. And so she tries to turn it up real loud, and the kids are like, what the hell is wrong with you? And she finds out she's deaf. Then we get back to the present. And, oh, by the way, time for the title sequence. Deanne Bray, who is deaf in real life, plays Sue Thomas in Sue Thomas F.B.Eye. She has somehow gotten a job with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. She's on her way to Washington, D.C., and continues telling her life story after the title credits to Levi, this dog who is trying to get her attention. She's totally oblivious to the fact that a cop is trying to pull her over for speeding. She's doing like 70 and a 40 or something like that. Mm-hmm. Right. But then we get another flashback as she's talking to the dog. Her mom made her go to a school for regular kids instead of a school for the deaf. Now, her mom's like, I want her to be like a normal kid, but there's a little bit of an undertone here of that I don't want anyone to know that my child is different, that kind of thing, right? The kids, and keep in mind, this show came out in 2002. The kids straight up call her retarded. They just use the word like during the flashback sequence because she tries to introduce herself. She's learned how to read lips and to make sounds, but it's not quite right, And Mom tells her just go back to school and just don't let them know. Don't let them know that they got to you. Don't let them know that you're different, that kind of thing. Well, back to present day, she finally notices the cop, pulls over, and the cop immediately pulls a gun on her and demands that she gets out of the car. Why? He's been following her for several miles, and she has not responded to his lights and sirens. Mm-hmm. Seems reasonable, right? He does eventually make it, get her to get out of the car. She explains she didn't pull over because she is deaf. That doesn't explain why you didn't check your rearview mirror, but I digress. And as the cop is starting to de-escalate the situation, he puts his gun away. She uses the opportunity to explain to the officer during the traffic stop that she can read lips. And then she goes on another flashback showing the first time she learned how to read lips. And that she had trouble in school because sometimes a teacher would look at the class and say what the assignment is, but then turn back to the blackboard. And this happens several times during the flashback in what is an unintentionally hilarious moment. Where she's like, now remember, class, the most important rule is... And so I need 2 examples of... so on and so forth. It's one of those where, this is too stupid to be real, but I kind of like it. And that continues. This show is all over the road. Unlike Sue's car, who it breaks down right when she reaches D.C. So she manages to get to this friendly mechanic. He loans her his truck so she can make it to her new job with the F.B.Eye in the morning. Her boss is a boring as hell man who I only can describe as styrofoam brought to life. He's explaining that she's been put in the special projects program, another term for where we put people who don't do normal stuff good. And her job is going to be to look through fingerprints, just compare fingerprints. What you would think is actually a really specialized job for something where they just shove people into, which really makes me question how the FBI does things.
Best not to ask those questions right now.
Especially not in an audio podcast. Back at the mechanic shop, she learns her car was damaged by a poorly refined type of gasoline, prompting her to want to look into what that particular gas station is up to. Will we come back to that? No. She storms into what she thinks is the personnel office and demands to be treated with respect, only realizing that personnel has been moved. And she's just having an awkward meet cute with an agent who's like, okay, I'm a regular guy, but I think I can use your lip reading talents in the field. He sets up a test for her to translate a surveillance video that has no audio, and she is able to transcribe it perfectly. She also encounters more than a couple of Stevie coworkers, because why not? Now, it's worth noting, this is a very lighthearted police show. It feels more like a PSA than a TV series, mainly for the acting quality. I hope it gets better later on in the show. Sue does stop every few minutes to remind us, A, she's deaf, B, it's very hard. Thank you. But she is based on a real-life person. There is a real-life Sue Thomas, passed away in 2022, who did have a successful career as a surveillance expert for the F.B.Eye, specializing in lip reading. So, Deanne Bray, like I said, she's multilingual. She's also deaf. She does well with the role, all things considered. The dog is probably the star. Levi is adorable, and I've known Levi for 45 minutes, but I would take a bullet for him. For everything else, the show seems to be the equivalent, like I said, of like a public access program with a modest budget. I get what they're going for, but this was kind of rough. No dog pun intended. Now, anyway, for my prediction, while it's true that Sue Thomas F.B.Eye is based on the real-life Sue Thomas, there is such a thing as creative liberty. So I predict that Sue eventually makes a name for herself by solving impossible cases, climbs the ranks of the FBI, and finds herself face to face with her greatest challenge, a blind thief who only speaks in chirps and squawks. For the dog alone, the show gets 3. You don't have to yell. It doesn't make a difference out of 5.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Fun fact, this was one of like 2 shows that aired on the station. I don't remember the name of the station, but had original programming. There were only 2 shows of original programming.
Mm-hmm.
One was Sue Thomas, F.B.Eye.
Aye.
The other was called Doc.
I remember Doc.
Which is Billy Ray Cyrus.
Yep.
Who moves from Montana to New York to be a doctor.
You're thinking of the network UPN.
UPN.
Which also had WWF SmackDown for a while.
Nice.
Yeah. I remember Doc very well because the writing is similar to Sue Thomas F.B.Eye as far as writing quality.
Makes sense.
Yeah. It's worth one watch.
You know, while we're talking about all this stuff from back then, let me just put a little bit of nostalgia bait on my hook. Lay my line out. Take some time and remember some stuff. Yeah. Hey, do you remember when G.I. Joe and Cobra joined up to fight drugs and the drugs nearly won?
I'm sorry, what? I
So-
don't remember that.
All right, so G.I. Joe's been around for a long time, right?
Yes.
And it had 2 different cartoon sets in the 80s.
Yeah.
So the early ones that had the good theme song, and then the 89 to 92 run from Geek that had the bad theme song. You know, got to get tough. Go, Joe.
Oh, yeah. I had that on a VHS tape.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that run was characterized by awful animation, missing backgrounds, some truly terrible voice work, and a 2-part episode called The Greatest Evil.
I also remember that run for Cobra Commander once telling Destro, you couldn't rule a sandbox.
Yeah.
That was a great line. Go ahead.
So in this 2-parter, Red Guardian number 1, because we're not going to use any of like Cobra's actual villains.
No.
We're going to use like number 1 guard. Finds out that his sister has overdosed on Spark, the new designer drug of the Headman. In this same episode, Duke's brother, Falcon, who's new to the Joes, is also hooked on the drug.
Not
Okay.
Spark.
Yep.
Oh, no.
On Spark. And after Falcon basically kind of messes up a mission so that
Because of the drugs.
so that Red Guardian and the Cobra get their thing and get away, in one of the first of many things that are just wrong with this story, Red Guardian goes, y'all go back to Cobra Command. I've got a family emergency. And he goes off to do that.
Who knew that Cobra offered FMLA?
While Duke, who is a member of the good guys,
Yeah.
kicks his brother out of the Joes and then disowns him.
Oh, wow. That all just happened. Okay.
Now, Red Guardian and Duke are now both in bad moods because they found out that their loved ones are on drugs. And they end up facing each other in their various, flight, vehicles.
Yep.
They get into a dust-up, and they end up having to basically parachute to safety together because they both eject, they both pop their parachutes, the parachutes get twisted, and both of them they're both too proud at first to cut their line and pull their alternate. So Duke ends up like grabbing on to Red Guardian's chute, cutting his own off, and they just float down to Earth together where it's like, well, we got a long way down. Go ahead and tell me your story.
So, in Star Trek terms, Duke and Guardian where the sparks fly.
Yes.
Okay.
Uh-huh. Now, having come to the realization that each of them has a family member addicted to drugs, and drugs are bad, okay,
Okay.
the obvious solution is a team-up.
Sure.
So the Joes, they need some extra firepower to help take down the Headman because he has got a gigantic, clearly abandoned building in the middle of downtown. So it's very well protected with all kinds of rockets and bombs and bullets and a veritable army. Cobra is going to do it to take the money that the head man must have stashed. Whatever the reason, they work together. They attack the inner city. The boarded up, no way the city's going to allow this prime real estate to rot kind of building. And they are utterly and completely defeated by the headman and his army.
Wow.
But just in case we want to see them win, Falcon and Sydney, who are Red Guardian's sister and Falcon is the brother, right? The headman's like, well, they keep attacking my thing. Tell you what, kidnap those two and bring them to my real hideout, which is a disguised mountain in the desert.
Nice.
And as that's all happening, Duke and Cobra Commander, who are sharing Duke's plane because all the Joes got paired up with a Cobra.
My God, that sounds hilarious.
You know, they get shot down and credits, right? So we get into part 2. In part 2, Duke and Cobra Commander, they escape the destroyed plane eventually. It's like the thing is fused shut, you know?
Yeah.
And so then they get out of the plane just in time for it to fly into a building in a scene that actually made me gasp in our post 9/11 world.
Oh, boy.
Like, this is 10 years before that event.
Yeah.
And I'm still just like, whoo, thank you, YouTube, for preserving this for me. Anyway, so Shockwave and Crimson Guard had teamed up to get into the old building, and they finally are able to do it, and they're able to blow it up. Great success. However, the headman now has the 2 hostages, and the Joes and the Cobra don't know where it is, and there's no money in the decrepit building.
Oh.
So Cobra is very upset by this.
Sure.
We need to go get this. Fast forward a whole bunch, because there's a whole lot of nothing that goes on. A bunch of bullets fly, or lasers.
They're lasers.
Lasers
Red and
fly.
blue. Red and blue,
And nobody dies.
Ever.
Nobody.
No. They learned their lesson from the movies.
They get there. Joe's Cobra, they storm the new hideout. They defeat the drug dealer by overdosing him on his own drugs.
Lovely.
And then going their separate ways. Now, just before the credits, the camera pans over to the rubble of the destroyed hideout, right? Where you see the headman's arm and hand, like in the rubble, and you're like,
classic cliche.
oh, and you think he's going to move because no one dies. And then there's this great big anvil hit sound effect and a black screen with red letters that says, remember, drugs kill.
Whoa.
I'll be honest. So, you remember that?
No.
No, of course not.
I would remember that forever.
You can find it on YouTube.
Good,
It's there.
I'm gonna watch
The
that.
Greatest Evil, parts 1 and 2.
Oh, my goodness.
And I'll be honest, it's been so long since I've seen G.I. Joe, right? So long since I've watched these. I had forgotten how much name-calling is done throughout this.
Yeah.
Like the G.I. Joes, every time they talk to a Cobra counterpart, there's some
insults.
Snaky insult that they use. And I'm just like, it kind of takes me out of the moment. I'm like, guys, aren't you the good guys?
Yeah, but off.
I mean, be the good guys. It's classic 90s.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's good. But, hey, just in case you need a little remember when.
Wow. Yeah. Huh. That sounds awesome.
And bad.
And bad.
And awesome.
Yeah, it's bossome is what it is.
It's bossome. So I watched a bunch of trailers.
Okay.
Ooh, did I watch a bunch of trailers. Starting with Kiss of the Spider-Woman. It's a musical with the vibe of Chicago and The Greatest Showman.
Interesting.
The sets, the scenes, it looks fascinating, beautiful, and engaging. Jennifer Lopez, Diego Luna, and Tonatiuh. It's a must-watch for me. This looks so cool.
I've seen like some industry buzz about how like J-Lo seemed to have been made for this role.
She certainly looks like she was using everything for it.
Okay.
Like it was really good. The Man in My Basement.
Nope.
Willem Dafoe is something of a tenant in this spooky movie that sees Dafoe's character offering $1,000 a day for 65 days to rent a dude's basement, no questions asked. I'll watch it, but probably just the once.
Oh.
I'm afraid to say no to Willem Dafoe.
Yeah.
Just because I don't know what he'd do, if I said no.
Yeah, like if Willem Dafoe asked me to rent this person's basement, I think I would feel compelled to do it just because Willem Dafoe, you don't go against Dafoe.
If his name was Willem Defriend,
Yeah,
I might be able to say no, but it's not Willem Defriend.
Yeah, and Willem Denemy is just a little bit too on the nose.
So, guns up. Kevin James has somehow become a bankable action star, which is weird, but also looks like it kind of works.
Okay.
I mean, he's trying to leave the family. It's like he's some kind of mob enforcer.
Oh.
And they don't want him to go. What sold me was Christina Ricci plays his spouse, who seems to be an equally deadly person.
Okay.
I like Christina Ricci and a lot of the things she's been in.
Okay. All right.
Including some of the things that I didn't like, but I liked her in. Black Snake Moan.
Gotcha.
Weapons. That's the name of the movie. Weapons!
Oh, okay.
When 17 kids go missing out of one classroom, drama, suspense, and terror commence. It looks both spoopy and confusing. I'll probably Wikipedia it. What the heck is that all about? And then I watched the trailer for The Strangers, Chapter 2. This is the follow-up to the remake of a film that already had a different sequel. Yeah. It looks creepy. See it or don't, but I'm guessing the ending will be both gory and predictable. Roof Man. So this is based loosely on a man that lived in the roof of a Toys R Us for 6 months.
Oh, that's not where I thought that sentence was
No.
going.
Channing Tatum was a thief that would basically go into banks through the roof in order to rob things. And he didn't hurt people, but he got into jail, and he escaped jail, and he needed to lay low for a while.
Probably through the roof.
So he lived in the roof of a Toys R Us for half a year. He looks svelte. He's rizzing up the joint. Kirsten Dunst is in it, so why not?
Okay.
Bugonia. Bugonia?
I'm going to say Bugonia.
Sounds like a flower. A couple of weirdos kidnap a CEO of a major company because they think she's an alien from outer space. I don't understand what's going on, quite honestly, but it looks like one of those slow-moving indie films that'll make me laugh at all of the inappropriate things.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, Downton Abbey, the grand finale.
I thought that was done.
Well, it looks sophisticated and colorful, rich, full of drama. Also, it is missing 100% Maggie Smith.
Yeah.
So they should have just let this story lie in book format for the real fans.
For real.
And Sketch. A girl who's dealing with some PTSD, puts her drawings into a notebook. And somehow Palpatine returns. No, somehow those drawings come to life in a movie that's as much adventure as it is a statement on how we have to process trauma in our lives. It looks both fantastic and silly and really, really heartfelt and serious too. So I have no idea what to make of it. I'll probably watch it, but I doubt I will invite anyone else to watch it with me.
Okay.
All right. Have you watched anything for which you would offer a review?
Other than Sue Thomas, F.B.Eye, no. It's mainly just been keeping up on stuff. We had company come over, so we rewatched a couple things. Mm-hmm. The Emperor's New Groove is still fantastic.
Still funny?
Every time I watch it, it climbs a little bit higher on my favorite Disney movies list.
Oh, yeah.
And I think right now it's at number 3. So, like, it's God, I love that movie. I love that movie. It's like Lion King, Lilo and Stitch, Emperor's New Groove is now the top 3.
Emperor's New Groove replacing live-action Lilo and Stitch at number 4. I mean, that's pretty cool. I jest.
Yeah.
Live-action Lilo and Stitch, everything we've read about it has convinced us not to see it.
Absolutely. Let's see. What else? Rewatched the first Captain America.
Yeah.
Still good.
Still good.
Still one of my favorite superhero movies. Mm-hmm. So
it took it took the word earnestness and said, let's just make a movie that's nothing but that.
Let's just make a good movie. Let's just make a good movie. And rewatch The Marvels. Still like it.
Still good?
Yeah.
All right. I've watched now the first 2 seasons of Tacoma FD. So, brought to you by some of the same minds that brought you Super Troopers. It's absurd comedy centering on a fire station in Tacoma, Washington, a place that rarely deals with fires because it's almost always raining.
I'm here for it.
Every episode is its own monster. The thing is entirely episodic, with the crew dealing with some thing, right? They're a tight-knit team. They make fun of each other. They fight good-naturedly about various stuff. Episodes might deal with gambling, or the new rookie's a girl, or the rivalry with the Tacoma PD, or what are we going to watch on television?
Okay.
The relationships make it work, though. And it's funny enough that I keep coming back to it. So it's an A- for me.
All right.
I know that I have watched other stuff, but I haven't had time to write down my reviews of it. So I'll get to them next month. Which brings me just to...
One more thing.
And now it is time for Darren's Trivial Trivia.
Okay, so you know The Wizard of Oz.
I do.
I know The Wizard of Oz.
You do?
Our spouses know The Wizard of Oz.
Intimately.
Yeah. So we know that Frank Morgan played the actual man behind the curtain. He played the guy who, showed up in Oz. Mm-hmm. Do you know who played the big floating head, though? No one knows.
Really?
Yeah. Not definitively, anyway. No actor was credited.
Right.
For playing the big green floating head. There's a few different theories. No single consensus, but the 3 candidates are Shep Houghton, Henry Hull, or Frank Morgan himself, who did supply the voice, but did not supply the face.
Wow. That is awesome trivia. I'd not heard that at all. I love it.
Awesome. That's all I got then.
Well then, with nothing else, Kent.
Oh, the lights are down low. The popcorn is hot. The drinks are cold. Settle in for the cinematic universe of Chad's Random Movie Review.
Next month, by the roll of the dice, I get to review The Dig.
Okay.
Ralph Fiennes period piece. This month, though, I watched Uncle Buck.
Yes.
And I made sure to watch it with my child because
Good.
I think that every 11-year-old should see Uncle Buck.
Agreed.
Meet the Russells. They've recently moved from Indianapolis with their 3 children, 15-year-old Tia, 8-year-old Miles, and 6-year-old Maisie, to the Chicago suburbs. Tia resents this move, and her relationship with her mother is, shall we say, troubled. Like, seriously, some of what this girl says to her mother is hate speech, and she ought to consider herself lucky that her parents are the 80s equivalent of liberal parents, because just about any other parent of 1987 would have beaten the sass right out of her.
Absolutely.
One night, the parents receive a phone call. The mom's aunt is calling saying, Dad has just had a heart attack. Grandpa's had a heart attack, and we need some help. So the parents are going to go, but they need someone to watch the kids. They've got school. They can't be taken out of school for what might be weeks to deal with this, and having kids in a medical emergency is not usually the easiest thing to deal with.
Never a good time.
So they're going to call their neighbors. They're in Florida, and that leaves pretty much no one else but Buck Russell, Dad's brother, a drinker, a smoker. He makes his living by betting on rigged horse races. In a different scene, we kind of met him and his long-term girlfriend, Shanice, who wants to get married to him and start a family, but Buck just wants to have his freedom and maintain his lack of responsibility. And Shanice warns him, if you keep this up, eventually you're just going to end up alone. But Buck answers the phone. He hears his brother, doesn't recognize him right away, and he agrees. Yeah, I can come help. It'll be fine. He shows up, and it doesn't take him much time at all to make friends with Miles and Maisie, whom he's never met. You know, he hasn't been around for 8 years. You know, Tia, on the other hand, seems to think that she can treat Buck the same way she treats her mother. It does not go well.
No.
Because Buck is not a liberal 1980s parent.
Buck is not.
Buck threatens in different things of walking her to class wearing nothing but his robe, of shaving her head while she sleeps, and various other such things if she doesn't get, quote unquote, that pole out of her keister.
My grandpa would have liked this, man.
Now, he settles into the home, and over the next few days, he takes the children bowling. He punches a drunken party clown out of a party. You know, he defends Maisie from her school's assistant principal by flipping a quarter onto the principal's desk and saying, "Take this down and have some rat gnaw that thing off your face." Because she has a very noticeable wart.
Yeah.
And he washes his laundry in the kitchen sink because he cannot operate the washing machine. Now, Buck eventually kind of notices and meets Tia's obnoxious boyfriend, whose name is Bug. And he warns her that Bug is only interested in her for sex. And he repeatedly thwarts her plans to sneak out to be with Bug. In retaliation, Tia convinces Shanice that Buck's cheating on her with a neighbor. And when Shanice walks in on it, she doesn't feel like she can get any kind of explanation that's worthy. She ends her relationship with Buck. That kind of ends Buck's thoughts on doing anything for Tia.
Right.
You know, he's like, fine, I guess we're just going to treat this, you know, you do your thing, I'll do mine. But then Tia sneaks out to a party. It's the night that Buck is supposed to go bet on a horse race that would provide him with enough money for the rest of his year. And he puts Miles and Maisie in the car. He's going to take them to the track.
Why not?
And he has kind of a come to Jesus moment with himself. He calls Shanice, begs her to look after the kids. To which we get this scene where Shanice gets to the house. Buck has already left.
Yeah.
And Shanice knocks on the door and then looks through one of the side windows, and Miles like opens up the mail thing and down. That scene is what inspired John Hughes to write Home Alone.
Really? That scene? Okay.
That scene of looking through the mail slot. You know, a kid, you know. So, cut back to Buck. He finally gets to the party, and Buck forces open the door to a bedroom where he thinks Bug is taking advantage of Tia. In a great scene reminiscent of like a horror movie where you see the drill bit come through the lock. Bug is with a girl who is reluctant to be in the same room with him, but it's not Tia. That doesn't stop Buck, though. He binds and gangs Bug and locks him in his car's trunk and drives off to find a tearful Tia who admits that Buck was right. Buck was right. Bug did the things. Opening the trunk, Buck forces Bug to apologize because he still has a drill.
Sure.
And then lets him go. When Bug threatens to sue Buck, Buck pulls out his 5-wood and some golf balls and starts pelting this child, causing him to flee in terror.
Yeah.
Tia reconciles with Buck, mends his relationship with Shanice by admitting her lie. Buck agrees to take a steady job. The parents return from Indianapolis, and Tia surprises her mother with a hug. And Mom promises that their relationship will get better. Now, as he prepares to leave, Buck invites Tia to meet up with him in the city before exchanging kind of a nice goodbye. Now, there's an undeniable charisma that John Candy brings to any role he's in.
Absolutely.
And in this role in particular, he's jovial and he's pleasant, but he's also very crude and sloppy. And we like him. We like him a lot.
Yeah.
You know, his temperament and his lack of sophistication make him exactly the right person for this, you know, particular situation. The young kids respond to him, and he knows how to, like, gently push their buttons to get them to behave. So, like, the kid's like, did you brush your teeth? Yeah, you can even feel my toothbrush. You know, I have a friend down at the crime lab who can tell whether or not you've actually brushed your teeth or whether you've just got it wet under the sink. And then he doesn't say anything else, and he just raises an eyebrow and then leaves. Yeah. And the kids say to another, you suppose that's true? If it is, we're going to have to start brushing our teeth. Yeah. You know, he doesn't put up with the oldest one's crap, and ultimately, he's just trying to do the right thing. You know, and he takes a lot of hits to his ego in this when he finds out that he's basically been cut out of the wedding photos. He hasn't been invited to visit in 8 years.
Right.
You know, he is not well thought of by his sister-in-law. And so he takes a lot of these hits and he just tries to do better. You know. Now, there's also an edge to this movie that doesn't exist in a lot of John Hughes' other movies. The undercurrent of this one is pain. There's a sense of loss, and it helps to contextualize some of what's going on, and it makes the conflict between Tia and Buck feel like it has some stakes to it. She's a 15-year-old girl. She is acting out of anger because this move has taken her away from the only home she's known, from her, you know, extended family, from her friends, her school, etc. And that's what a 15-year-old would do, would act out in anger, not even fully realizing how hurtful some of these things were. But like when she says to her mother, you know, if my entire family moved away from me, I'd have a heart attack too. Like that's the kind of thing gets you slapped.
Oh, yeah. Man,
you know,
I would be paintbrushed so fast.
You know.
Today.
Now, Buck, on the other hand, he's covering up all of his sadness to ignore the fact that his life isn't the party that he assumed it should always be. You know, he thought he would always have it made. You know, he didn't have a wife. He didn't have kids. He didn't have a job with an office. He could just go and live totally free. But that's not the way things go. And so we've got these two different types of sadness that are going on. One who is acting out in a misplaced anger, the other one that's trying to completely ignore it and tamp it down in order to kind of survive. Each actor's bringing something different. It's not quite describable, but it works in the way they do it. Now, on the surface, this is a collection of scenes that don't closely follow one from the other. I've said, maybe on this podcast, The Breakfast Club, which is one of the
it's a quintessential
80s teen movie, doesn't really have a plot.
No, it doesn't.
It's like 95 minutes of character development. And for that, it does a really good job. This is kind of like that. It just does it with a little bit more forward momentum. Each scene we see is a milestone in the relationship of each of these strangers, kind of as they get to know one another, whether it's between Tia and Buck, whether it's between the kids and their sister, the kids and Buck, the kids and parents, so on and so forth. Is this the best of John Candy's movies? No, because Spaceballs exist.
Right.
Nor is it the best of John Hughes's movies, because Planes, Trains, and Automobiles exists. Also a John Candy.
Yeah.
But Uncle Buck is well worth watching with kids, and I would say as young as 11, providing you're willing to talk to them about consent and why it's important, which you should.
Yes.
So this is a Be Like Me. With no other business, thanks to our sponsor, Gamefly. Check out news and reviews that are not on the podcast on the website, geekcavepodcast.com. Join our Discord for fun conversations. Tell your friends all about where to find us, including Podbean and Apple Podcast, Amazon, Good Pod, and so forth. Don't forget to check out our other offerings, including You Want Me to Watch What and Week 3. Then head over to the YouTube channel for even more offerings. For Kent Harris, our Danny Zuko. For Darren Wright, our Kaniki Murdoch. For Justin White, our Sonny. That's Chad Savage is me, and I guess that makes me putsy. Thanks for listening, and remember, everyone is a geek for something.